Hello everyone, HisRoyalFatness here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are continuing the How to Play series. Today in the Kranvagn, the tier 10 Swedish auto reloading heavy tank, where I will show you 3 consecutive games today in this vehicle to break down my thought process, as well as show you through either my accomplishments or failures how you can be best utilizing this vehicle. Now the Kranvagn is an absolutely amazing vehicle that's been highly requested. Now the reason I haven't made a video on it before now is because, well, I didn't see it as a very complicated tank to play, but when I took a second to think about it, I realized there are a few important things for you to understand about the Kran to really understand how it performs. So first, let's discuss what makes the Kran good and bad. So what makes the Kran great is you have one of the best turrets on a tier 10 heavy tank, period. Almost impossible to pen frontally for most vehicles, especially if you're hull down. Speaking of which, you have, I think, 8 degrees of gun depression, so very capable in hull down scenarios. Its hull armor, while isn't awful, it's decent. It can potentially bounce shots, not something you want to rely on. It's like an E5, it's a hull down vehicle, and its mobility is kind of middle ground. So you go about 30 kilometers an hour, which really is kind of slow if you consider it, but you have the speed boost to make up for that. So its mobility isn't awful. Its reverse speed is actually really good. And of course, there is the auto reloading gun. Now, this is either a love or hate aspect of the vehicle. Sometimes it's amazing, sometimes it's not. Doing the 1200 clip is a lot of fun, but that single shell DPM is really quite bad. And the accuracy, while okay, isn't really that amazing. And that brings me into kind of like the consumables I'm running with this vehicle. So I am running the super speed boost because I need to get places and get out of places quickly. And I'm running reticle calibration just to quickly get a clip off. Because when you have as bad DPM as a Kranvagn, you want to get those clips off, and you want every single shell to count, because one shot missing, goodbye all of your DPM. So I said there's a few things you need to know when it comes to playing the Kran, and that's what I'm going to try and show you in today's video. But first, let me kind of just explain those things really quickly. So the Kranvagn has a very heavy tank, standard heavy tank playstyle. You want to be in the thick of action pretty much for most of your scenarios. And let me explain what kind of things you need to identify when you're going to be doing that. Firstly, it is absolutely essential you have team cover in this vehicle. You don't have great mobility, you don't have good DPM. You're going to get ripped apart if you become isolated. And because of that, you need to make sure you have probably about half your team, if not more, with you or providing great cover fire. So don't get isolated. Don't try flanking in this vehicle. It's not that type of heavy tank. Instead, you want to go towards the center of the fight, which leads to my second point, going on towards the center of the fight. So you always want to be in the center of the action with this vehicle. Because its DPM is so bad, you're not going to get damaged if you're lingering around or spending a lot of time trying to get around the engagements. You have the hit points, you have the turret armor, and really just about everything you need to survive long enough to just sit in the middle of those engagements and deal damage, and most importantly, foil the enemy team, which is kind of my third point, is go to positions where you're going to be hull down, and you can just become a real pain for the enemy team to deal with. If you can get hull down and sit there and distract 3 enemy vehicles for 2 or 3 minutes of that battle, you're being so useful to your team. Even if you're not dealing much damage, if you're holding off a lot of vehicles, you're being absolutely critical to your team. And due to the characteristics of this vehicle, you certainly can do that. Now, those are kind of like the things I wanted to discuss in terms of playstyle that you'll want to kind of keep an eye on. In terms of equipment, this is what I am running on the vehicle. Now, you could run vents if you want a moderate boost in your DPM, but I think calibrated is an absolute must on this vehicle because, once again, you need to make every single shell count. And of course, you're going to be going frontline into those heavy engagements. Having that extra penetration is going to be quite helpful, especially if something like a mouse starts YOLOing you. So for that reason, I'm running calibrated. Everything else doesn't really matter. You know, we're just going to run the hit points, just get back up at that hit point, some engine power, whatever. I don't really value the other pieces of equipment, so just experiment around with that. But for this tank, I recommend the calibrated shells. And that is it, really. So we know the playstyle of this vehicle. Dead center. Make sure you have team cover, make sure you hold on and be distracted to the enemy team. And hopefully today we can demonstrate all of that through some live gameplay. So while you're watching through our live gameplay, try and take note of how you decide where to position this vehicle, because this tank is all about positioning yourself correctly. And when you do that right, you're going to perform really well. Maybe not 4, 5, 6k damage every game, but you'll do a solid job and you'll probably win more often than not. So with that out of the way, let's jump right on into that live gameplay. Alright, so here we are. First game, we are on Castilla. Now, this is a map that I have always said it is almost always better for your team to have a solid split and create that ever so necessary crossfire to be effective. So I am going to push left here. Now, I'm not going to commit all the way to the mill because obviously we have a lot of tanks coming towards the mill here. My goal is just to try and spot up some of the enemy team early by using this spot. I'm hull down here, I have gun depression, and hopefully enough view range to spot any heavies that come around this route. And just to see what the enemy team could be sending here, because looking at the lineup, the enemy team have better medium tanks. In fact, we only have tier 9s, whereas they have tier 10 medium lights. So they definitely win in that department. And I have a feeling they'll probably send a lot of tanks there. Now, interestingly enough, you'll notice I have spotted absolutely no one. And the entirety of our team, in fact, has actually come this way. I did not anticipate this. I think it's not a great idea. Our mediums could have held the Castle Hill if they'd done it properly. I've made a review about how you can hold on that map if your team's not supporting you. But not all players know about that position. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pull up towards B cap because it's pretty obvious the enemy team will be pushing back through our spawn soon. And through B and through the mid because they've all gone towards A, my team's all gone towards C. We will have the cap advantage temporarily, and as for me, I'm just going to see if I can spot anyone up over here pretty aggressively. So we do spot up the Vickers at the start, get one shot into the Vickers, and I'm just going to prioritize this Vickers over the 62A because he's already lost HP, and he's a much more dangerous tank in my opinion because he has 325 meters view range. And what that means is he'll be absolutely killer at spotting up my team. So killing this Vickers should be a priority because it will blind the enemy team. Now, as for what's going on right now, we can see the enemy have a 111-1-4 just YOLOing over here. So I'm going to pull back and see if maybe I can get a shell into him if he continues to push forward. Probably not, and that's fine by me because I'm just casually reloading my magazine here. And here is the T30 crossing forward. So I think what I will do here is just push up and... yeah, okay, I don't think the M4 is paying attention really. That is a 183, however. So we're going to pop the accuracy consumable here, and we're going to put one shot into the 183. And we're going to pop a second shot into the 183. That's just me for 390 damage. And we're even going to pop a third shot. And that's where the accuracy consumable is nice. Because if I did not have it, it was much less likely those shells would have hit. I would have had to spend much more time aiming. And who knows, if the 183 was lucky enough there because I would have been sitting in front of him, he might have been able to even pick up a HES shell into my turret there. So that worked out quite well. And now what we're going to do is start pressuring forward on vehicles like this AMX M4 MLE, M454, I guess, and this T30 here. So I'm going to go for the T30 first. He has the lower HP target here. So we're going to put one shell into this T30. We're going to hopefully get a nice high roll into him with our next shell. And we'll probably have to pick up the kill with our third shell here. So very good use of our clip there, clearing a tank. And now we are above vehicles like this AMX M4, which should leave us pretty easy to farm for the rest of this battle. So we're going to put one shot into him. And here's where I'm just going to go single shot mode because I really can't be bothered to waste my time reloading shell after shell after shell. It takes too long. Instead, I can at least chisel away at this M4's HP pool. I don't know why he's turning towards me. There we go. We're going to put a shot into his turret there. I'm just going to wait till he gives me shells. And we've already dealt 4,000 damage. So Kranvagn's all about positioning. And what I want to draw your attention towards for this battle is how with positioning, I kind of anticipated where the enemy team would peak because we know they all went A. We know my entire team went C, and there's only a few spots they were likely to go in that game. So I'm gonna pick a kill on the E100 there, excellent. And that's why I decided to pull up straight around B because I knew they're gonna send tanks there. They're gonna steamroll through A, and they're gonna send tanks there to try and spot up our team. And it worked out quite well because we were able to catch their tanks kind of off guard. The Vickers lost a lot of HP, and we were able to win that game rather comfortably. Just was great kind of Kranvagn gameplay. Going hull down, reading where the enemy team are going to go, going there to try and hold them off and deal damage as quickly as possible. Of course, you're not going to be dealing damage very quickly at a Kranvagn because it's a Kranvagn. But definitely that's what you want to keep an eye out for decision making in your Kranvagn is, do you have team cover? Do you have an area where you can be hull down? And where's the enemy team most likely going to be? Because I've always said the Kranvagn is a tank where you kind of want to be in the center of the action. Even though you don't have that DPM and you're relatively team dependent, you definitely want to be with the engagement because it's so hard to farm damage otherwise. So for the second game, here we are on a Naval Frontier. This is a... yeah, so that's not a bad map for a vehicle like the Kran. I think what I'm going to do here, now I was originally going to go all the way left, but looking at the lineup, the enemy team are rather light, and I don't think they're going to really send that many tanks towards A. Now, they could be completely unorthodox and go towards A, but as for now, I think they're more likely to send tanks C, B than full commit to A, but I'm still going to poke into this bush to see if maybe I can spot up tanks like the VK-72 or any kind of late crossers. But there you go. The Gorilla 15 has already been spotted up top here. There's the E50. We're going to load up a heat shell. Unfortunately, we hit his tracks there, and it appears the Batchat is pulled through the mid here. Wasn't quite able to reload our shell there in time, or yeah, we didn't reload it in the intro clip in time. That's why I shot a little bit too late there. We're going to put one shot into the Batchat. So 1 out of 3. Yeah, that was not a great use of my rather poor GPM there, and we can see the VK-72 and probably the 75 momentarily are going to be pushing up towards A. But as I anticipated, most of their forces are either above B or above C. So that leaves us pretty open here to kind of just work the mid, and I'm going to casually work the mid for now. We're going to put a shot into the E70. Don't know where that ricocheted. Okay, so we ricochet off the E75, and looking at how this game is progressing, I don't want to sit here any longer because the enemy team, they're going to pop up behind me, and I might lose some hit points for this. But I think the best thing I can do right now is pull up towards my team on A, because our team is awfully exposed here and I don't want to get myself nuked. So we're going to try and get away from this 183. Please do not nuke me in the rear. We do not, and so we can start working down tanks like this VK-72 and whatnot. You can see the E50 is now above my team. We're going to use this bush as some kind of camouflage. We're going to put one shot into this E50. The 183 actually pulled all the way forward. I have to give him credit for that. He actually pulled out of his spawn. That's pretty ballsy. And we take 300 there, probably from a gorilla. So we're going to put a shot towards this E50 and continue pulling forward. Once again, I don't want to get stuck here because our TDs have pulled down from there, so I no longer have cover fire from them. But what I can do is very easily hold this corner. Any tanks that come this way, I can hold them off. And hopefully, if my teammates are able to turn around, they will provide me the support I need to help hold this position better. So we're going to wait till we have 2 shells loaded here. We now have 2 shots loaded. We're going to put 1 shot in towards this guy right here, but here's where we get heshed by 183, and the E50 gets taken out by our teammates here. But unfortunately, I am just not going to be surviving this game much longer. We're going to try and put at least 118 to the back of this Batchat for a 644 max roll here, and there's now a Sheridan above us where we're going to try and avoid the Sheridan, and we're going to keep getting close towards this 183. We managed to ricochet the high explosive there. We're going to load another shell and put that shell into the FE215B183, and we actually worked that really well there. Now, I thought I was absolutely dead meat, but one thing that the Kran really does have going for it is its insanely resistant turret, and we were able to block 1300 damage from point blank from that 183. So yeah, that was a bit of a weird game. And you saw the risk of running a single repair because I didn't have a repair kit to use when I got tracked in the open. So I took 1100 from that 183 there. However, in the end, the Kranvagn's ridiculous amount of hit points of 2800, its very strong turret, and just generally speaking, its strong stature allowed me to survive in a situation where a lot of other vehicles would not have survived there. So yeah, good job. And in regards to positioning, I think I played that all right. I went towards the kind of middle of the map to try and get some early shots off, so I didn't really commit left or right because I figured the girl would be right up there. Okay, so the girl's right up on the bridges up top. So I didn't commit either left or right because I didn't know where the enemy team was going to go. And then once I realized, hey, they're going to be sending all of their tanks up top, I really quickly turned my tank around and started dealing and started pulling towards A because that's where my entire team was. They were all sitting around A. I should not have activated my accuracy consumable there. Unfortunately, our waffle's going to go down here very quickly, but this 140 should rip apart the Gorilla 15, and I'm just going to push in myself. So I was playing passively this game. It's just because I didn't see any use in me dying because the Gorilla 15 would actually outspot me. It's just how it is. If he's sitting still and there's a heavy, I'm in a heavy tank, he will outspot me as he did, and the Gorilla 15 is now dead. Did not get the farm as much damage as I would have liked that game. I definitely had some troll RNG bouncing the side of an E75. The miss on some of those tanks were kind of troll as well. But overall, even though our damage that game wasn't spectacular, good job 140 by the way, our impact to the team was very, very important. Imagine what I had done instead was either sat above B all game or I decided to push on the VK-72. What would have happened is all of those tanks, all 3 of those tanks that rushed into me there, they would have plopped right behind my team and they would have ripped them apart. And very easily, we could have lost that engagement. But by knowing where the enemy team was going, by knowing where I could position myself to be best suited, and with a little bit of luck that battle, we were able to make a huge difference. And that's one thing I'm always going to say about the Kran. It's not necessarily a damage farmer, and it's okay if it's not your highest average damage tier 10. At least for me, DPM mobility tanks I average a lot in, but that's not really the point of the Kran. The point of the Kran is you're reliable. You can create a lot of change in the outcome of a game based on how you position yourself. You can hold off a lot of vehicles if you have just enough team cover fire. And that's what we have been able to do so far in these games, and it's worked out very effectively in helping us win these battles. So here is for the third and final consecutive game today. We are on Canal. This is a pretty good map for the Kran, lots of haul down opportunities. And what I'm going to do here is go straight up towards this right hand side. Now, generally speaking, this is an area that suits the Kran very, very well. And you can see most of the enemy team is coming here, but we will need to be very careful of the double 183 platoon. Now, as for me, I'm going to make it my priority to clip out this Emil 2. Unfortunately, our IS-7 here is just a little bit too exposed, and he's completely tunnel visioned, so I'm going to wait till the Emil pulls forward. We're going to put one shot into the Emil's turret. Now, the Emil 2 has absolutely no turret armor, so you can just load up heat and with absolute ease just butter his turret armor there. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. Now, you can see the 121 is pushed down low here. The IS-4 is pushed down in towards the lower side. I'm not going to get baited into the Emil, and I really can't get baited into the 183s either. So the question is, how can I deal damage here while still being safe? Might be able to put a shot in towards this IS-4. Now I'm going to let you know right now, this is definitely a risky play with the amount of 183s they have. And that was a bad bounce on my part. But what I'm going to do now is just hold off all of these dudes. Now, the enemy's I-7 gets ripped apart. We unfortunately lost our VK-90 who overcommitted down low. We're going to put a kill shot in towards this 121 finally, and there is one of the 183s, and I could pull down low, but obviously an IS-4 that's almost on full HP, I'm not going to deal damage to him very easily. So if he's not paying attention, as he is not right now, we're going to put a shot into him. But I'm not going to overpoke. I'm definitely not going to YOLO in. There's no need for me to go into the low ground and get myself, well, ripped apart by a pair of 183. So I can just keep holding here and on the reload, pull forward, put another shot into this IS-4. The enemy team, they're just kind of stuck on a crossfire. If you're going to push low like this IS-4, always push up towards this middle portion, because that way you don't get crossfired out from over there. Because what this IS-4 is experiencing is he didn't commit all the way, and so now he's getting crossfired out by a Kranvagn, and there's really not much he can do about it. Now this game is pretty much over. All of the hit points on the enemy team are just in 3 tier 10 tank destroyers, or 3 tank destroyers, I guess. We're gonna put another. Ooh, I did not want to take that shell. Unfortunately, we took the shot there, and hopefully the Yag should be able to pick up the IS-4 very soon, because I don't know about you, but I want to farm some damage, because I do want to try and average about 4K in this vehicle in general, and I don't think it's a good idea for me to just shoot this IS-4, who's going to die to the Yag Tiger anyways. The Yag just has so much DPM. So now that the IS-4 is taken out, I'm free to start pushing forward. I think the IS-7 should be able to take out this 183, and I'm going to just load up my entire clip here to deal one last clip of damage in towards those 183s. So while I'm doing that, let's explain what I've been doing this game. So I went towards A. It's a great spot if you can take control of A, and I was able to just kind of sit there, hold down, and work on the enemy team. I mean, this was probably the most basic of all 3 of these battles, because we went to one spot and it suited the Kran. But that's the nice thing about having a flexible tank like the Kranvagn. So we're going to put one shot into the 704, nice little high roll. We're going to activate our accuracy consumable here, put a second shot into him. I have my side angled slightly just to try and give me a better chance of ricocheting there, but weren't able to ricochet that. However, we did manage to clip out that poor object 704, accuracy consumable coming in clutch there, and it is just this IS-7. So we're going to try and put a shell into IS-7 for 379. And that is the game over for about 4,500 or so damage. So not a bad game for the Kran. We were actually able to farm damage pretty quickly there. So 4.5k, so we did 5k for the first game, 3.5, and then 4.5. Nice rigged win fatness. Sorry, dude. Cry about it every time, man. But it's whatever. Anyways, so 4,500 damage, not a bad result. I think what we can do is just kind of inspect the mentality of all 3 of these games. And I think it's very obvious by now how I play my Kranvagn. I'm always trying to go where I can deal damage while hull down, where I'm going to most likely meet the enemy team, and where I have team cover. These are just 3 absolutely essential things you must understand about the Kranvagn to perform well in it. Otherwise, the tank does everything for you. It has a great gun. And sure, its DPM is lacking and its accuracy could be better at times, but it's reliable. It has a reliable amount of penetration, it has decent enough accuracy, and of course it has the gun depression. Now, if you combine that with the absolutely killer armor profile this tank has, and the sheer amount of hit points, I mean 2,800, that's pretty much as an IS-4. That's better than most of your tier 10 heavy tanks. It survives a long time. And if you combine it with the right consumables, the super speed boost allows you to locate and relocate quickly. The accuracy consumable allows you to reliably hit those distance shells. This tank is killer, and it's not that difficult to run. Just be good at identifying where to position yourself. And once you learn that, you're gonna do fantastic in the Kranvagn. So I hope everyone enjoyed today's how to play on the Kranvagn. I hope you're able to learn a thing or two about this vehicle. Please feel free to like the video and subscribe if you enjoy the content. You guys are awesome, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. For all of you who have been asking where the cat is, she is still here. I just don't always include the footage of her. So yes, hello, Bobby. If you're watching our stream on last Thursday, she made quite a few appearances. By the way, I'm going to try streaming more often on Thursdays, so keep an eye out for that in the future. And thank you to everyone who did pop up on the stream. And yeah, so let's finish up the video now.
Saeed on the mix.